So when we start, it will be great.
Okay, we have like 10 seconds to go. 5, 4, 3. Mr. Chen, please.
Okay, maybe I'll start. Good evening, and our audience, and also our distinguished panelists, and also our moderator, Mr. Tony Chen. And so it's really a great pleasure for me on behalf of the Center for China and Globalization, and also our co-organizer, South China Morning Post, to host this webinar that rebooting the Belt and Road Initiative amidst the pandemic, challenges, prospects, and innovations. We're having this webinar here today because, as we all know, that China's Belt and Road Initiative has been proposed for the last 7 years, has been widely accepted and also widely carried out in many countries. China has signed over 120 MOUs with different countries, and China has signed over 50 MOUs with international organizations. So tonight, this is since we're collaborating with South China Morning Post, we are actually conduct this webinar in English because we also carry live in YouTube and Facebook and international social media, but we have a simultaneous interpretation so that it's also convenient for our domestic audience to listen in whatever language they prefer. So this is aimed at more international exchanges and also exchange international dialogue. So today, as we have said, this is a joint event between CCG and South China Morning Post. Let me introduce the host tonight, Tony Chen. He's the correspondent for South China Morning Post, and also he has been preparing also a lot of content and question for this webinar. And also we are very happy to have also Mr. Winston Ma. He's the adjunct professor at the New York University and former managing director of China Investment Corporation in China. And also we are very happy to have Professor Zai Kun. He's the professor in the School of International Studies at Peking University. And my name is Wang Huiyao. I'm the president of Center for China and Globalization. I'm just having this bit opening welcome remark, and also we want to hear more from our moderator and also our experts. As I said at the beginning, you know, this topic is really highly relevant because China seems to have contained COVID-19 to a large degree, and but COVID-19 is still not fully contained in many other parts of the world, and particularly probably along the Belt and Road countries. And it's also really, we have to look at what's the impact for Belt and Road, you know, amongst the COVID-19, and what are the challenges, prospects, and innovations that we can think of. So I think there will be quite a lot of interesting discussions during this hour of this webinar, and I hope we're going to have a very productive and meaningful discussion, and we also have the live audience, as we always do. CCG actually conducted over 30 international webinars during the pandemic for the last several months. And every time when we do it live, we have a live audience over 100,000, 200,000, sometimes can be 500,000. So I don't know what will be the number tonight, but I think it's highly watched for this discussion. So Perhaps I should pass the role now to Mr. Tony Chong, and he's the correspondent from South China Morning Post. This is a joint event between CCG and the South China Morning Post, and you can moderate this section tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wang. Again, it's a great honor for me to be able to moderate this webinar on the Belt and Road Initiative, and for SCMP to be the media partner of this event. So, personally, as Dr. Wang has briefly introduced, I'm a correspondent at the South China Morning Post. I mainly I joined the Post in 2012 and joined the Hong Kong desk, and I focus on Hong Kong political news. But in recent years, with the introduction of the Belt and Road Initiative and also Beijing's Greater Bay Area project, so my specialization are on these two mega projects and on cross-border issues and Hong Kong's relationship with mainland China. So I feel that tonight this topic is very timely, because this is a topic that everyone wants to know more about. And also, when we talk about the Belt and Road Initiative, we talk about infrastructural investments, and we are also talking about how we're also talking about technological cooperation as well. So tonight we're really honored to have Dr. Jai Kun from Peking University, and also Dr. Winston Ma, who is the managing partner and chief investment officer of China Silk Road Investment Capital. So Dr. Ma has written books about the digital Silk Road, and he's an expert on this topic. So without further ado, I just want to first raise this question of about rebooting the Belt and Road Initiative amidst the pandemic. So the challenges, the prospects, and the innovations. Before we go into the actual topics of discussions, I would really like to ask our two experts, Dr. Ma and Dr. Jai, what do you think of the situation right now? Having because how has the Belt and Road Initiative been affected by the pandemic? And as we want to, as China want to reboot it, restart it, so what will be the main challenges that it will face? Maybe I start with Dr. Jai first. Is that okay?
So maybe Professor Ma will be the first.
Okay, it's also okay.
Yes, thank you.
So, Professor Ma, what do you think will be the main challenges, and as China go forward in rebooting the Belt and Road Initiative, especially on the digital and technological fronts?
Yes, great to be here. To start, I will quickly mention that my career started as a Wall Street lawyer and banker in New York, and the last 10 years I worked as the managing director and head of North America for CIC, right, the China Sovereign Fund. So to me, a person of cross-border experience, and I certainly consider myself a globalization person, I would first to say that when we think about Belt and Road, people tend to link that with infrastructures investments, but I think more broadly, we should consider Belt and Road as a mindset for global connectivity, and this it's a vision for global collaboration, right? The trade across the border, the flow of ideas, and joint prosperity. So I think in the middle of all these current crisis, it's very important to consider the Belt Road as a broad mindset for connectivity, and this is especially relevant in a time that globalization is under challenge, right? Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned, I mostly focus on digital Silk Road, since I'm mostly focused on tech investments, cross-border cooperation, so on and so forth. And I also would quickly mention that the digital Silk Road is a new dimension of the Belt and Road, is a new addition to the Belt and Road Initiative, which started in 2013. And the digital Silk Road was added in 2017. And the time is not a coincidence, right? Because it started right after 2016 G20 in Hangzhou, China, where President Xi and G20 leadership collectively announced that the countries will collaborate to promote the digital economy as a growth engine for the world economy lack of growth from the previous crisis, 2008, right? And if you put this into context, the Belt Road, especially digital Silk Road, is particularly relevant now because we are dealing unprecedented challenge to the world economy. Certainly, there's a fear of economic contraction, and I think it is the digital Silk Road is relevant more than ever, to be used by all the countries collectively as a new growth engine for the economy. But there's certainly a challenge because relating to the Belt Road issues, projects, there are issues or concerns, right, about the debt trap, about project governance, and for digital Silk Road, since it relates to the new digital economy, there's also new concerns about the data privacy, cybersecurity issues, cross-border data control, so on and so forth. Now, I was saying, these are all important issues and they all deserve their independent analysis. However, overall, this topic is about global connectivity for development. In a time of crisis and lack of growth, we have to focus on the development story. So I put this into the context and look forward to further discussions.
Perfect. So thank you very much, Winston, for your insight. So Dr. Zhao, what's your view on this topic as an expert on international studies? How is China going to reboot the Belt and Road Initiative, and what will be the challenges it faces?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I want to talk something about the challenges we are facing, or the BRI is facing right now. So the COVID-19 is changing the world and also changing the development of a BRI. So before the outbreak of the epidemic, so the construction of a BRI is something like a development strategy, both for internal and external cooperation or development. It's a development strategy. In the past 7 years, it's a relatively good strategy for both domestic and international development. So we can see for the past 7 years, the keyword is integration. Yeah. But during the epidemic, the integration process was hit. And we can see the keyword is block. But the construction of the BRI hasn't been suspended. China government is just adjusting the process of BRI. So we can see the keyword is a restart, just like you mentioned just now. Yeah. So we can divide the process of a BRI into 2 stages. So first is a version 1.0. Right now it's a version 2.0. So the transition from 1.0 to 2.0 is a huge challenge. So I will give the 6 challenges very briefly. So the first is how to make integration for both domestic and international aspect. You can see all the linkage were cut down because of the epidemic. But right now, you can also hear the new term of 双循环, something like the dual circulation of economic cooperation, the domestic circulation and the international one. So the BRI will be the bridge for domestic and international one. But so China is planning how to promote it. So I think it's a challenge of strategic design. So it's a brand new thing for China. So the second challenge is before the epidemic, BRI is already a global one, but not a regional one. Just now, Dr. Wang Huiyang mentioned we have already 138 countries to sign MOU with China for the co-construction of BRI. It's a real global one, but right now we can see the new trend of the world right now is regional cooperation. For example, EU, the cooperation against the COVID-19, the ASEAN countries or East Asian countries. So how to promote in a parallel ways? First, it's a still global cooperation, but on the other hand, how to cooperate with the EU, with ASEAN, with other region is a new challenge. So the third one is the global connectivity partnership. Last year, China just held the second summit for the international cooperation for the BRI. So the key word is a global connectivity partnership. But right now, we very hard to find some real partner. Some countries are not so willing, have no willingness to cooperate with China, just because of the economic nationalism in the wake of the COVID-19. The fourth challenge will be the 5 connectivity. The 5 connectivity is a framework of cooperation on the framework of BRI, the policy, infrastructure, trade, finance, and people to people. So how to promote it? But it's a challenge. But the good thing is you can see the Chancellor Wang Yi and Yang Jiechi already visited some Asian countries and European countries, the very physical visit, face to face, to promote the new web connectivity. The fifth challenge maybe what kind of public goods China can provide for the world. So in the 1.0 version BRI, maybe the infrastructure. But right now, infrastructure is so difficult to promote. And maybe something for public health, medical care. It's a new challenge for China. And the last one, maybe the most important one, is a challenge from US. Before the epidemic, US believe BRI is a challenge to US. But right now, you can see the strong competition between China and the US. So the US will use the maybe Indo-Pacific strategy against the BRI and use other tools. So the BRI is still a huge challenge for China. So how to avoid the conflict between US and China. So totally, I give a broad challenges for the BRI in the wake of COVID-19. Okay, I finish here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhai. It's really helpful for you to have mapped out these 6 major challenges, and it's really good insight from you. May I ask if Dr. Wang or Dr. Ma, what do you think of these 6 challenges? Do you think that any particular challenges, especially alarming or interesting for you? May I ask Dr. Wang or if you have anything to?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. No, I think that what Dr. Ma and Dr. Zhai has just mentioned quite well. I think they covered the ground quite well. I agree with Dr. Ma that the Belt and Road actually can be divided into many key parts. But I think digital Silk Road probably is definitely the one that now after COVID-19 or during the COVID-19 is the one that is really more urgent and more practical and more attractive to many other countries along the Belt and Road. So I first of all, I want to say that. Second, I agree to Dr. Jha that the 6 challenges he outlined are really very relevant and real, and we really need to face it and also solve some of those challenges. Now, for my part, what I would like to talk about on the Belt and Road is that I think Belt and Road, is something. After this, after this pandemic, we need really give Belt and Road a new thinking.
Yeah.
We all know that the after Second World War, we have the Bretton Woods moment. So that Bretton Woods moment, we had many initiatives like the World Bank, like the IMF, WTO, GATT, then maybe also Marshall Plan, whatever, have many things to form the framework of the global governance for the last 75 years, which is, I think, has prevented any further conflict and or major Third World War, for example. Yeah. But I think now, we're getting probably a little similar of that, because although we haven't had a Third World War, but we have this pandemic attack of COVID-19, and that devastated the whole world, because we haven't seen the world being shut down. 7 billion people or whatever, how many, billions of students and factories and people has been shut down.
Yeah, so unprecedented.
Unprecedented.
Yeah.
Almost like an attack of the Third World War, but not by human, but by others virus. So after that, so we really have to think how we can go from there. So what are the plans? What are the tools or mechanism or system or technology available that can cope or help the world to cope with the pandemic? I think now after this pandemic, we probably will give Belt and Road a new look, shed some new light, and also it's time to adjust Belt and Road, to enhance Belt and Road, and to improve Belt and Road. So what I would like to propose is that there are several things we probably could do. First, I think this digital Silk Road we should really strengthen. I mean, after COVID-19, we found digital is really swept all the world in terms of efficiency, or communication, or webinars and online education. It changed a lot, and also online working has changed the way we used in the past. So I think how can we pass the experience, the achievement, and the new normal to the Belt and Road countries is something that we should really promote and push for. So that's number one. And number two, I think that the infrastructure, also the health, these kind of things now it's certainly come up as a priority now. So health, Silk Road, I think that has been mentioned as well. It should be probably taken into consideration. China has now already developed vaccine, and how we can really put that into practice, and how to help Belt and Road countries to cope with COVID is something that maybe Belt and Road has something to share, to collaborate, or to support WHO, and also to really continue. Thirdly, I think the infrastructure is still infrastructure is still the key to the Belt and Road. So for the next 75 years, if we want to use the COVID-19 as a dividing line between the last 75 years and the next 75 years, also this year is the 75 years of UN establishment. We just had a big webinar, CCG, on the UN 75 years anniversary. So next 75 years, I think, based on what China has experimented, the infrastructure revolution, the infrastructure architect, the infrastructure green Belt and Road is really the future trend, and particularly among those developing countries, even some developed countries. The experience China had on the fast speed train, on the 5G networks, on the smartphone users for 1 billion users in China, and also all those digital infrastructure that can really be applied to Belt and Road countries. So I think that is the other area I think that next 25 years, I see infrastructure as one of the key drivers for the Belt and Road. Also, the Belt and Road can also develop some probably new payment system, because now in China we already use, we forgot about the cash already. We are using the phone to pay.
Yeah.
So how we can apply that technology, those digital currency or digital payment system, that probably something that we can get a vast experiment on that among the Belt and Road countries. So that's another thing we could work on. And finally, I would like to talk a bit about the collaboration, as Professor Jai mentioned, how we can get more partners to work on Belt and Road. This is something I think Belt and Road needs to, when it's turned into 7th year now, we need to give some new thought. And also, it's also a turning point with this COVID-19 that we need to think about new approaches to Belt and Road. So CCG actually has released a report in the past. We have actually proposed that we should multilize Belt and Road. So right now we are signing 138 MOU as we just, Dr. Jai mentioned, but that's not enough. We should multilize. For example, we should probably set up a Belt and Road International Steering Committee so we can really fulfill what President Xi has called for: jointly consulted, jointly build, and jointly benefit. So I think that is something we need to really improve. I was in Washington. I was talking to Robert Zoellick, the former president of the World Bank, and he said, "Look, World Bank has accumulated huge experience in terms of undertaking infrastructure project in the developing countries. So why can't we have the AIIB, which is also Infrastructure Investment Bank, with 103 country members, to join hands with World Bank, Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank, Latin American Development Bank, European Development Bank, so that international development banks can really work together to have a more internationally co-financing program, so that we can have a joint international competitive bidding, we can announce the bids, and we can really make it more transparent, so that really can help the Belt and Road be more acceptable, and also get more countries interested. Like China has signed agreement with France and with Japan on third country cooperation for project, which basically could be a Belt and Road project, and in Africa and in other countries. President Xi pledged $2 billion to support fighting COVID-19 for those countries. That would be probably also can be more applied with collaboration with many other countries, with WHO, for example, WTO. So I think multilateral collaboration is probably the next wave to really make the Belt and Road, project fly, and really make it more avoid any country change the government, or maybe have a different attitudes towards Belt and Road. So I think we should have a do cycle, as we also do domestically. With bilateral agreement, but also multilateral agreements. We need to really do multilateral agreements. And finally, I want to add that we really need to mobilize the business excitement into Belt and Road. After all, Belt and Road is an economic project. It's a financial project. It's not a government project. It's not only from development banks, but it's really a project of business. So we should really mobilize the multilateral business. We should have a Belt and Road Summit that has a big component of a business summit, or maybe we should have a separate Belt and Road Business Summit. Last year, second Belt and Road Summit in Beijing, we actually proposed that the first year there was no business summit. Last year there's a business summit, 1,000 people, delegates attended, representing several hundred companies. We should expand on that so that we can get more companies interested, we can get more participation into the Belt and Road. So business in the end will carry the Belt and Road, and with the development banks, with the multilateral support, and also with China put up the seeds money. I always paraphrase Belt and Road as a venture capital project. China is the country put up the seeds money, but let's have an A round, B round, C round. Let's get it the IPO. Let's get it the prosperous. Get all the participation so that we can really make Belt and Road fly. So I think COVID-19 is not really going to slow down the Belt and Road. Maybe it's the changing point that really we're going to have high quality, have a high high speed, but also high cooperation for the future for the Belt and Road. So I want to Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wang. It's really great for you to give out the 5 directions that can further explored. But at this point, I would like to ask Winston this question because Winston, so you are based in New York, right? So you spend a lot of time working in the U.S. and you talk to American businessmen day to day. Because right now, Dr. Jai has mentioned that the challenge from U.S. will be one of the 6 major challenges for Belt and Road Initiative. So what do you think from your first-hand experience? What is the sentiment in the U.S. like? Are they still looking forward to doing business with China, or are they in line with the government trying to shut out business from China? Can you share your insight with us?
Thank you. Sure. Yeah, I think it's overall bifurcated. You know, maybe it's quite to the positive of this discussion, because on one side, you know, at the government level, certainly there's tension, and this decoupling is real and accelerating, right? As you know, I'm publishing my book sequel this year to my 2016 book, China's Mobile Economy. The title meant to be China's digital economy, you know, like reflecting the shift from mobile internet to digital technology, right? But based on the tensions in the background, Wiley Publisher and I decided to have the book title as The Digital War, because you know, that kind of cross-government tension is really there. But at the same time, I think the business sentiment is still very constructive and open. And you know, the best example is probably the Ant Financial IPO, which is in the market right now. You know, Ant Financial is the financial arm of Alibaba, right? And we know, you know, Ant Financial has lots of projects along the Belt and Road countries, especially digital Silk Road type of projects in ASEAN countries, online payment, e-commerce platforms, so on and so forth. And you know, when you look at the Ant Financial IPO, right, you know, all the major U.S. banks are the book runners for the IPO. Lots of interest from U.S. Institutional investors as well as other parts of the world. You know, if you look at this largest IPO for a long time, you know, there's no sign of conflicts, right? You know, there's lots of determination to work out the business together. But overall, you know, I think there is a real challenge here because on one side, you know, all the governments are talking about digital economy more from the risk side. Lots of worry about cybersecurity, data issues, and more about, you know, the competition for data supremacy, right? At the same time, if you talk to the entrepreneurs, they still believe in technology singularity, you know, hyper-connected society, Internet of Things, right, or Internet of everything, right? And in that, when you look at these mindsets, there are certainly bifurcation as well, and I think it's very important, as Dr. Wang and Dr. Pen indicated. Like, we need a new framework. We need new multinational organization or multinational framework that can put the risks and the concerns aside, so that everyone can focus on the development and the growth side. So I think that's the way we should look into. Back to you.
Thank you very much. So as I see these challenges and directions, I was really thinking of how timely this topic is, because as Dr. Jai also mentioned, at this very moment, Mr. Wang Yi is in Europe to visit 5 different countries, right? And he chose the first destination. He landed in Italy, and this as we know, is the only group of 7 nations to have signed an MOU to support China's Belt and Road Initiative. And of course, Mr. Wang will also visit other countries like the Netherlands, Norway, and France, and Germany. So it's interesting how Dr. Wang just mentioned, the Belt and Road Initiative in a way can be kind of like the Marshall Plan, except the different thing is that Marshall Plan was initiated by the U.S., but this time China can play the role to initiate it. So because Dr. Zhai, you are an international expert, right? Especially in diplomacy and foreign affairs. So can I ask, just now you mentioned these 6 challenges. Which challenges you think is going to be the most difficult to handle? Is it the challenges from the US, or would this trip in Europe help the Belt and Road Initiative to reboot? What's your view on that?
Okay, thank you for your question. It's a very good question. Definitely, the 6th challenge, the challenge from US is the biggest one, the most difficult one, because just like the Professor Wang and the Professor Ma mentioned, we need a new framework for bilateral relations between China and the US, but we still didn't find the framework. So without the framework, China is always the target for the US. So the BRI is a huge target because BRI is comprehensive with 5 connectivity: policy, trade, finance, people to people, all kinds of corporations. So it's all kinds of targets. So it's very difficult. But one thing I want to emphasize is experts, we are seeking the new room, maybe a very small room for the cooperation between China and the US. Just like Vincent Ma mentioned, the digital economy or digital field may be the new room for the innovation of the cooperation. For example, for the BRI, we are promoting high quality infrastructure along the BRI countries. US also has the Blue Dot network. It's also a set of standards of high quality of the infrastructure or the digital infrastructure. And the EU or India or Japan also has its high quality infrastructure in Indo-Pacific area, or it's an overlapping area of the BRI. So maybe we can find something. Maybe we can talk about what kind of high standard of infrastructure in this region. Talk about standard. Could we find some new ways for cooperation? It's a public goods for the region and the global development. And for example, the ASEAN has its ASEAN Smart City Network, almost 23 or 26 cities. America and China are all partners to promote the ASEAN Smart City construction, particularly the Singapore. So you can see Wang Yi, Mr. Yang Jiechi with Singapore. So Singapore can play a very important role in the post era of COVID-19 to promote the digital economy. Maybe find some new ways for the coordination between China and the US, because the South Asian countries concern a strong confrontation between China and US. So maybe China and the US have no wisdom to find a new framework, but the small countries like Singapore or other South Asian countries or European countries can find some ways. So we depend on the third parties' help to coordinate the China-US relations. So it's my personal idea. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. But I have a quick follow-up question for Dr. Zhai. Before it's also relevant to Dr. Wang, because both Dr. Zhai and Dr. Wang mentioned the importance of the digital Silk Road. But I'm just thinking right now with this kind of tech war between US and China, and even the US is trying to build this transatlantic alliance, and they are trying to Washington is trying to persuade even European countries to shut out like China's 5G technology, etc. So with these, with such a strong stance and challenge from the U.S., so how can the Chinese government or businesses get around with this and then make sure that the digital Silk Road is still going to succeed? So any insight on how to what are the solutions and the way out for China? Dr. Jai, do you have any thinking on this at the moment?
Maybe some multilateral approach. So just now, Dr. Wang Huiyao mentioned we need not only bilateral but also multilateral. We have one multilateral approach in East Asia. We call it the East Asia Summit. East Asia Summit has members of 10+8, the ASEAN 10 countries and 8 countries, China, Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, US and Russia, and India. So all the important strategic players around Indo-Pacific or Asia-Pacific. So East Asia Summit may be a only platform for all these countries inside. So talk about the regional digital governance. It's a trans-regional digital governance. Maybe we have some broad consensus for the digital development in this region. So not for China or US. It's a single country's interest, but for the public goods for the region. So this may be maybe an approach.
Perhaps I could add. I think that there's probably several ways to do that, to try to minimize the gap between China and the US. For example, both Dr. Zhang and Dr. Ma talked about a digital Silk Road. If you talk about digital economy and digital companies, probably the 20 largest digital companies in the world, most of them are in the United States and China. So I have actually proposed that before, because for the global issues we have a G20, and among the G20 you have B20, you have a T20 for think tank, B20 for business, Y20 for young people. Why can't we have a D20? So the 20 largest digital company form a group, and then together with the think tankers, academics, policymakers, that they talk among themselves. Because I think if they talk among themselves, then they will find a collaboration, and then a lot of things to work, so that they can really solve the way they probably smarter than the government. With public proper antitrust law, that they can really manage the corporation. So I think that probably is one of the areas that entrust the multinational to collaborate on the Belt and Road. So that's proposal number one. And number two, I want to minimize the difference between China and the US is that we see China and US is drifting apart. It's instead of a converge, it's diverge, and it's even further, it's in a downward spiral now. So we need something to hold both parties to work together. But we look at the world. What are the biggest attraction? What are the biggest things that can really attract both countries together? Is this massive development project in the developing countries, and then only US and China has the expertise, capacity, investment, financial clout to do things. And also now US is in majority ownership in control of the World Bank. China formed this AIIB. So maybe China and the US should work on through those multilateral agencies, form some joint governance possibilities for work on those developing countries, so that there's a common interest to bond both countries, rather than they fight over the ideological differences. They the business and the country find something practical that they can really, peacefully help this world to become a better place to live and to become prosperous. So we need to really create a lot of attractions for China and US to work together. I think Belt and Road, if we design properly, could be one of those that major attractions. But we don't want to make Belt and Road a geopolitical camp. For example, if the US trying to get NAFTA, now it's a USMC with poison cause. Now EU is talking, US is talking a free trade deal with EU and with Japan, and then they want to have a economic NATO form on the higher tariff against China, or have a CPTPP designed to contain China. If that is the purpose, then that's very unfortunate. And then China probably has to work on the Belt and Road. Then we are really seeing a decoupled of two worlds, which is very dangerous. I think we don't want to have an economic NATO and economic WASA, for example. But I think, can we turn this risk into opportunity? Those threats into opportunity. Let's make it a big pie that is big enough to attract both China, US, and EU, and Japan and others. So I think depends how we really shape the narrative of that. And I think it's important to for the media, think tanks, and academics to really think freshly and what's the new framework, what's the new narrative, what's the new attraction for the Belt and Road and for for the future world of the next 75 years.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wang. Thank you for the optimism on the Belt and Road Initiative, because plus I have to confess that as a journalist, before I come into this webinar, I was a bit pessimistic about Belt and Road Initiative because of the tension between the US and China. But as Dr. Jai and Dr. Wang and also Dr. Ma have rightly pointed out, there are lots of things to be done, and the Belt and Road Initiative is definitely not limited to government and government. It's also about businesses and corporations, and it's about people as well. So it's there are definitely many reasons why we can remain hopeful about this initiative. So right now we actually have some questions from the floor, or I should say from the journalists. So I will just briefly move to the questions before we wrap up the whole discussion. The first question is from China News. Is actually very interesting. I'm talking. So the journalist was asking. We spent a lot of time discussing U.S. and China and all these superpowers, right? But this journalist said there are actually 38 BRI countries in the sub-Saharan Africa, like the Western Africa, where there are hugely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and in areas ranging from tourism, trade, and investment. So so rather than focusing on the big countries, right? How can the Belt and Road Initiative in the post-pandemic world help these or even during the pandemic? How can the BRI help these less developed regions and countries in Africa to respond to the pandemic and rebuild their economy? Maybe
Okay.
Dr. Ma or Dr. Jai?
Yeah, happy to start. Actually, I think this is a great question, because when we talk about the tensions, actually we talk about the 5G, high-tech conflict, so on and so forth. We actually forgot the fact that globally almost half of the population do not even have internet access, about 3 billion people, right?
Yeah.
So today here we talk about AI-based remote medical diagnosis. I'm talking about during the pandemic, right? So here we're talking about robots detecting, sending messages by drones, or talking about remote diagnosis based on AI big data analysis, or online education, or even basic or lots of goofy videos for indoor entertainment when you cannot go anywhere. But for lots of people in the emerging markets, these are just out of reach. Even the basic communication and entertainment. All right. So I think in the middle of this discussion, you should again, right, focus on the development story. This is a development story, right? Obviously, there's a lots of governance issues we should worry about, but for a world that being hit and at the risk of contraction, that we should definitely focus on the development side. And I think for the emerging markets, the digital Silk Road provides a context for them to get help to build up their digital infrastructure for the next economy. And it's not only just reacting to the pandemic, but it's also for the future sustainable development of these economies, right? Because in the future, probably all the economy will go digital. So therefore, if you think about the sentiment of these countries, they must be very anxious. They must be very anxious because there are several ways they worry, right? They will worry maybe they cannot successfully digitally transform the economy.
Yeah.
And then number two, they may worry that the new technologies will disrupt their existing economy, like AI replacing more human workers, get into another hit to the economy, right? And also they may look at China and they may realize that the old China model is no longer replicable. Like, by which I mean, in the past, China as a developing country can use the labor force, low-cost manufacturing to get into the world business and eventually upgrade the economy, right? But right now, AI, big data, robots are bringing new efficiencies into the system. So it is unlikely for emerging markets to say, based on my cheap labor and low-cost manufacturing, I can develop my economy just as China did 3 decades ago. Because we're now talking about new digital economy in a new context, right? So there's a lot of anxiety in these emerging markets. So therefore, we should turn that into opportunity for them to make this digital transformation by providing the necessary support, both from the technology side and the financing side. Back to you.
Dr. Zhai, so you are an expert on international relations and also on Southeast Asia. So how can the BRI help these countries in these poorer regions in Africa and Asia?
Yes, thank you. It's a very good question.
Yeah,
I agree with Professor Ma. And I think from a public side, China just hold a special summit, China and Africa, online. So Africa will be the main region for China's medical care assistance against the COVID-19, and China will establish many centers for the health training or something in Africa. So Africa is a first place for China to help the poorest countries in Africa. From the private side, I think during the COVID-19, the companies like Alibaba or the Tencent, they have some volunteer behaviors to use their technology. I don't know how to say, even follow the dynamics of some person to tracing the virus, something like that. They are very, very proactive to help the people in Asia or Africa. They are doing that. And from academic side, for example, the Professor Lin Yifu, the team of Lin Yifu in PKU, they are just make a new term, something like a new type of globalization, because there are de-globalization or the anti-globalization. But they believe the globalization is still there. It will develop. So maybe a new kind of structure of globalization with industrial, with public health, with some other public goods inside. Maybe it's a new structure of a new kind of globalization. So I think China is trying to do something to make a new a better world in the wake of the COVID-19. Is in Africa. For Southeast Asia, a lot of institutional cooperation against the COVID-19, from a summit meeting to ministerial meeting to a workshop one. You also know the news. The president of Philippines, Duterte, just asked China to give the PPE first to Philippines. So it's very interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have
maybe I could Tony, I could add my analysis on Africa just briefly.
Sure, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, you know, this question is really great. I mean, it's exactly that's what means the next Bretton Woods moment, because you know, the next 75 years, just like the last 75 years has lifted Asia. You know, Asia was really poor and backward. You know, 60, 50 years ago. Now African is really the new hope of the development of the world, which is the you know, it's the most young generation. You know, the average age is still in the 20s. It has 1.2 billion people. It could be 2 billion with you know, some time to come, and it's the most needed market. And then China has actually done a lot of projects there. You know, like. In Kenya, there's a railway. There's a big you know, shoe factory. You know, works in Ethiopia, employs 7,000 African workers. There's a soda company in African that they connect all the online videos and the television, and also there's a phone market, and of course so many companies are doing very well. So I think that this is really a continent that really has full of hope. We actually see just recently, we conducted a webinar on African-China collaboration with Chinese People's Friendship Association, that we have actually 8 African ambassadors to China, including African Union ambassador to China. They said that the African just reached a free trade agreement with 55 African countries. And then they are actually upgrade, and they are really taking a standardization among the trade practices. So it's really full of vitality and promise. So that's exactly where Belt and Road going to help and connect. So I think African is going to be the most promising, successful for the next 75 years, including India and many other developing countries. So that's where we should really continue, and China, US, and EU, and the other developed countries should work together to lift the developing countries in the next 75 years.
Thank you very much. Time really flies, and we have only about a few minutes left on the webinar. And I think talking about Africa and Asia, it may be maybe the point about digital Silk Road, about digital economy is really like a solution for China's relationship with them as well. So maybe I would like to ask this final question. It's also from the journalists as well, and personally as SCMP, and I myself see Hong Kong as our home. So as China push forward this digital economy, so what will be the main challenges that it will face, and how will cities in China like Shenzhen and Hong Kong play a role in this push for digital economy? Can they? How can cities like that help with the Belt and Road Initiative? Maybe I go back to Winston again, or maybe Dr. Jai.
So Shenzhen, I'm sorry. I'm not very familiar with Hong Kong, but I know something about Shenzhen. Shenzhen is developing the digital economy or some digital governance, and Shenzhen is establishing a partnership with the ASEAN Smart City in Southeast Asia. So you can find a very close relationship between Shenzhen and Southeast Asian countries. Because the digital issue means is a broad one, not only for your own country. So the early you go to the regional level, the better. So the city like Shenzhen, I think is doing it very, very well. And Shenzhen is also a city to share the new technology, particularly the digital economy technology, with some the underdeveloped countries in Southeast Asia. For example, the Lancang Mekong River countries like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar. All these countries have their own digital strategy. So China or Shenzhen can share the information and technology with them. So I think Shenzhen is a promising city for the digital economy. But the problem is very short. That we believe digital economy may be a tool for the post COVID-19 tool, but we must know there is still the challenge from US. It's not so easy to promote the cooperation in the region just because of US. Yeah. Like something happened in Huawei. Yes, Affinity.
Yeah, perhaps I could add. I think that actually today is exactly 40 years ago that the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone was established.
Yeah.
They're celebrating 40 years anniversary. And whereas I think 40 years ago, Shenzhen is a village. Now it's a 20 million cosmopolitan. And more than that, it's now the champion of the Great Bay Area now, together with Hong Kong. So I think the Great Bay Area will be the innovation house of China and Greater China, and that really going to help the quality of the Belt and Road. This quality is not only about only just hard infrastructure, but also soft infrastructure, softwares. I think that's where the Great Bay Area, together with the global talent, the financial center for Hong Kong, with the talent in the Shenzhen, and with the integration. That's where the hope for the Hong Kong young people and the mainland young people together, and that the experience, the technology and the softwares where they have developed, we're going to power the Belt and Road, not only for China and Asia, but also Belt and Road. So I think it's very promising. That area is very international, very global oriented, and also very well connected with the rest of the world. So I think now it's just. Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and Great Bay will be the innovation center for many years to come, and also to power the Belt and Road in many ways to come.
Dr. Wang, I just have a quick follow-up question for you. So, do you think as the GBA project goes ahead, do you think because there are lots of issues that Hong Kong is dealing with, right? So, do you think going ahead, Shenzhen will really be the dragon head of the whole project, or is it still Hong Kong?
No, I think 40 years ago, I mean, Hong Kong already, 40 years ago, Shenzhen watches Hong Kong, the whole country watches Shenzhen. That's how China transformed greatly. Great changes taken place in the last 4 decades. Now, I think we have a dual, parallel, win. I mean, Hong Kong and Shenzhen probably on each side, and that can really take off the Great Bay Area. Because Hong Kong is on the financial center, information center, and also talent center, whereas Shenzhen is really the manufacturing powerhouse and also with the talent as well. So I think it's just like a Great Bay. If you want to parallel that as a plan, Hong Kong is on the one wing and Shenzhen is another wing, and then to take off the whole Great Bay Area with the new look, with the new stability and new law and order in place, so that people can really concentrate on develop the Great Bay into the powerhouse of China and into the powerhouse of the public Belt and Road.
Excellent. So we really come to full circle. Like we started off talking about the different challenges that the initiative face, and the possible solutions. And but at the end of this discussion, we have discovered a lot of reasons for optimism, like how countries or corporations, people, or even cities can work together to make this whole initiative work and make the Belt and Road Initiative definitely not just an initiative for China, but for the whole world in the post-pandemic era as well. So I feel very encouraged having listened to sharings from our distinguished guests. So I think we have ran out of time, and we had a really good discussion. So maybe it's time for me to pass it back to Dr. Wang for some final remarks. Thank you, Dr. Wang.
Okay, thank you, Tony, for your very great moderating, and also thank Professor Zhai and Dr. Ma for participating in this great discussion. I think probably this is the not very many event that related the Belt and Road with post COVID-19. And as a matter of fact, so this is also a first project that we collaborate well with South China Morning Post. We hope that we had a broad international audience. According to our staff, that now through several Chinese social media, we have almost 300,000 people view on the Chinese language side, and about 100,000 view on the English side. So it's quite a good turnout. So I want to thank our distinguished panelists. I want to thank Tony Chen, South China Morning Post, and also CCG staff, and also our viewers, most important, and also international audience. So thank you very much. I think we have to stop here, and the CCG webinar series will continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Zhai. Thank you, Dr. Wang.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, goodbye. Bye-bye.